Hi, welcome to another episode of Denver's Good News Ministry. Um, Today I got
Michael Stack.
Michael Stat. Okay, so we got Michael Stat here. He's gonna tell us his story. And first, as always, a prayer, and then I'm gonna share this spiritual, inspirational quote. So let's begin. Jesus, thank you for another day, another blessed day, another breath of air. Thank you for bringing Michael on to share his story, Lord. And thank you for everything else that you have blessed us with, for helping everybody that I need to help by sharing their stories or helping them with the food bank ministry, Lord. In name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
So, today the spiritual inspirational quote is Jesus taught that an unforgiving spirit towards someone who has wronged us or we think has wronged us can hinder our prayers. It is better to go and reconcile with your brother or sister in Christ and pray later than to pray to God while bitterness is brewing in your heart. So that sounds pretty good. I mean, your mind's always more focused on that bitterness than what it is to actually forgive and I mean to actually pray to God. This is how I take that. So, Michael, go ahead and share your story with us. When did you
Okay.
get into your addiction? How old were you? And
So a lot of my life, even when I started young, I was one of those kids that decided to party early. I was 12 years old when I started smoking weed and drinking, and then it went from smoking and drinking to popping Vicodins and being in school and always being in trouble. And me, for my story at least, is I wasn't going to be the kid who got bullied. I was kind of chubby and short, and I wasn't going to be the kid who got bullied. So I kind of used my anger to fuel my journey, and it just pushed me into gangs, into more drugs. And through middle school and high school I did a whole lot of bullying, and I wasn't a nice individual, and that just kind of fueled my anger even more, because I knew that with my anger I could get the things I wanted. I could manipulate people, and and it just fueled me even more to do whatever I chose to do. And going into high school I was already doing ecstasy, Vicodins, smoking weed, drinking all the time. I didn't really care much about school. And then you know God decided to I had a kid early. I had a kid at 16 years old. And it kind of put me on a better path. At one point, I was a stay-home dad. My oldest, which she's 18 now, I've been blessed to have four children, three children's mothers. And my oldest, I would say God helped me get out of the streets at the darkest time of my life. But me being complacent with being a stay-home dad and taking care of my kids, and my children, her mother was working all the time, and I was staying home because she had an extreme peanut allergy. um I got bored with it, and I got bored and I got complacent. And so I thought that I could still do, be in the streets and still be a good parent. And it just kind of it collapsed my relationship with my children's mother, and I wasn't the best individual. And even though I was still a stay-home dad, I still could have did more. But when that relationship decided, when it went out the window, that really pushed me. We were together from when we were 14 until we were 26 years old. And so when I was 26, I was trying to get back on, to do the right thing. And I couldn't sway myself from, being in gangs and doing the stuff that I was doing, because I wasn't afraid of the gang stuff. I wasn't afraid of being in the streets. I was afraid of, doing right and being good, and, what I mean, and having a normal life. And so when she left, she left me. The only thing I wanted to do was destroy. And me being a destroyer, it put me in a lot of places where I was in pain with myself. And that pushed me to doing meth. That's when I got deep in meth. I was 20, 25 years old when I started doing meth. and everything fell apart. My relationship with my kids got worse. I ended up being not a present father. My oldest went with my sister. My second oldest was with my mom and dad, and I was just found myself walking the streets at nighttime just broken. And I think that every one of us as addicts, we get to a point where we destroy everything in our lives, and we really notice, like, no one's coming to save you. There's nobody's, you do enough destroying, you don't got nobody in your corner. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
you don't have anyone there to help you when you're at your lowest. You know what I mean? Because people, they know that you've been a destroyer, and a lot of people aren't willing to put out for you when you destroy everything around you.
You burn your bridges and stuff.
Yeah, and so being at the lowest point in my life with two kids at the time. One was 13, moved with my sister. I hadn't spoke to my kids in almost 2.5 years. And I was deep in addiction, and I just destroyed everything in my life. And I got a gun charge and a domestic violence. And when I went to jail, eventually after being in probation and going through the system, in and out of county jail, I ended up taking a sentence to a halfway house for 50 months for a gun deal, a gun charge. And you know, I never, up until that point, I never had a job. I never knew what it was to be an independent man. I never knew what it was to do anything positive in my life. The only thing I knew how to do was destroy. And at one point, I went from the halfway house to have a nice chunk of sobriety. In the time that I went to the halfway house, I ended up getting another, my second children's mother, pregnant, and I had a baby, and we both had a drug induced relationship. And I don't know if you've ever had a trauma bond where you're just in love with someone, and drugs is feeling that love, and when the drugs leave, so does the relationship. And
Yeah.
yeah, and we also lost our daughter to the state. And when I was in the halfway house, I was trying to fight for my daughter back, because at that point I was hurting so bad that I wanted to do better. You know what I mean? And I wanted to be a better individual. And so I was working in the halfway house, had a good sushi job, making good money. For once in my life, I felt like could do it on my own. And that was with the help of being in programs, and being in AAs, and doing work with clinical therapists, and you know what I mean.
Yeah,
And
and then you found out you couldn't do it on your own.
yeah, and I found out that, like, in the real world, independency is hard to notice, because you really need help from others. And me finding out that I needed therapy, and I needed help with a clinical therapist, and I needed to be involved in something more than just me being independent.
Yeah, you definitely do got to do that. And especially with codependency with somebody doing drugs with them or
Yeah,
whatever. Um, that's a big factor because a lot of people do that. I'm
yeah,
not saying everybody in addiction does,
yeah,
but I have known quite a few people that
yeah,
have done that. That's been there. That's done that, and it's hard for them to not be codependent.
yeah,
You learn a lot about that during the groups and stuff too, right?
yeah. And that's where I learned a lot about noticing that the codependency of an individual, your days are spent on where they're at, what they're doing, who they're with. And you expend yourself so much and exhaust yourself so much on the thought of controlling another individual. And I think that when I went through that period of my life, and she left, my second children's mother left me. So that was, two people that had left me because of who I was. And I was initially alone again. And, the only thing that helped me was be in groups and go to AA, and be, with other people that I knew that were probably going through things. And I found out a lot of my voice at that period. But what the downfall was, I was fighting for my child back, my third child, and she was only an infant. And I built my life to this point where I had a good job. I was making $8,000 a month. I was making extremely good money, and I was working, and I was sober, and when they took my rights from me as a father because of my background and because who I was in the past, they ended up taking my rights from me until she's 18, and that derailed my sobriety because I truly felt like, what's the point of being good if I can't get the things, like my child, and and be a father and be a present dad, and the things that I wanted to do. And it put me back in a spiral.
So with that putting you back in the spiral, is that when you came to get help at over here at Hazelbrook?
No, so initially down the road. So when my spiral happened, I was just running the streets, and once again, I was alone. You know what I mean? I didn't have people in my corner, and I didn't even know what I was doing. And I knew that I needed to do something more, and with myself. I could never be sober, without having to go to jail. That's just how I am. And I needed to. So I went back to jail, and then I had a moment where my probation officer was like, "Hey, you know, why don't you go to this IRT program, out in Sterling?" And I was like, "Please, let's go." You know what I mean? And I went to the IRT program. We had 29 groups, a week, for a whole 90 days. It was inpatient treatment. And one of the guys there, he was like, I know this really good place. It's called Hazelbrook, and I hadn't heard about Hazelbrook yet.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I hadn't heard about Hazelbrook or what they do. And this is towards the end of my 90 days when I was there, and he told me, like, bro, like, you should really look into, going to Hazelbrook.
Yeah.
and and I didn't know what that looked like. And I just knew that because of me being a destroyer and me being out in Sterling away from my family, and they weren't willing to help me out anymore. There was no money on my books. There was no desire to reach out, and that's a lot mainly because of the person that I was to everyone around me. And I thought to myself when he told me about that, what I need to be involved into something bigger than myself. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I need to be part of something that gives me a reason to be sober, because I didn't have my daughters anymore. I didn't have my family. You know what I mean? I was alone. And so I thought, like, a lot of men out there, when we're speaking about men going through things in society, telling us that we have to just, endure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not big on that. Like, I don't believe in that. You know what I mean? And so that program really brought it out to me that I need to be in service for men who are in a position where being in their feelings is deemed unfit. Like, you're not supposed to be in your feelings as a man.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to talk to people or talk to a therapist, or be open with how you feel.
Yeah. Yeah. I know it's a lot harder like that for men, because that is how we're brought up.
Yeah,
We're exactly brought up that way and stuff. So it's harder for men to come to just bypass that little thing there.
yeah.
And it is a little thing,
It's
it's
little to a lot of things in society, but as men, it's not little.
yeah.
It's not little to be open and to put our feelings on the table, and speak to someone about how we feel as men.
And ask for help and
Yeah, and ask
yeah.
for help. And I think the only way that that comfortability comes is from another man. Another man is going to get another man his flowers. You're doing a great job, bro. Keep going. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And another man is the person that told me, hey, bro, you can do this. You can go to this program and find some type of peace. And so, me knowing that I couldn't go back to the Springs, you know what I mean? I didn't want to go back to the Springs. And I know that that was ground zero for me. And so I talked to my case manager, and I put in an application, online for Hazelbrook, and I was waiting to do that. And in the meantime of me waiting, there's a lot of people trying to get into Hazelbrook, and I don't know what happened at that point, but I got out of IRT and I went back to the Springs. And I was sitting at my parents' house like, this can't be it.
Yeah.
So I called up Hazelbrook on the phone, and I was like, guys, I'm in a position where I need to be out of here. I need to be out of this place that I'm in, because I'm in danger of relapsing. And they got me a bed right then and there, and they said, come up here. I packed one bag from the Springs, one backpack, and got on the bus. And there's power in letting go of who you were, who you was in the past. And I think that every person has the capability to find some type of peace and structure. And with Hazelbrook alone, just with Hazelbrook, I got out here, they got me a bed. You know what I mean? I was in a sober home. They made me feel welcomed. And I talked to the house manager, and there was another person that was in the program, and his name's Trevor. And he was like, look, I know you're new, just go down to the center. If you don't know what you're doing right now, if you don't have any support, you don't have any family, you don't have anybody right now, the one thing that I encourage you to do is to go to the center. Just go up there, work out at the center. The center has an open gym, to everybody in the public, and you know what I mean, and it's free. And so I was like, I need to stay in the gym. So I came down here. I met, Danielle, and I met the people that were in the program, and you know, I never stopped coming.
Nice. That's good.
I never stopped coming, and I've been blessed with the opportunity to do this, and speak to you, and tell my story. And out of all of this, the one thing that would say is, when you're having a moment of uncertainty, find some stability. And my finding of stability was with Hazelbrook, and it allowed me to have some type of foundation in a city where I have nobody. I don't know
Yeah.
anyone. I don't have any family. I don't have any friends. Now that I've been coming to the center, I got a handload of beautiful individuals that are sober, that help me, that give me resources. And I haven't stopped coming since.
Nice. So how long you been in the program?
I've only been in the program for going on 2 months.
2 months. So
Yep.
did you start at the TSZ or did you
No,
go to
I went.
ACP?
I went to the Ada House. I went straight to the sober living, because I went to the Ada House, and because I was in the IRT program, I had logged quite a bit of time with the jail, and then going from jail to IRT. I had about a year in of sobriety, and so they put me in a sober home at the Ada House, and it's been great. And
So the Ada House, what's that?
that the Ada House is one of the houses that are in Hazelbrook. It's right off of Buckley in Kentucky, and it's just another home for men, that are in sober living for Hazelbrook itself.
But in Kentucky, that's okay. So that's that way. Yeah. So that's I believe that's a phase two of
Yep,
TSZ.
phase two. Yeah,
Yeah.
and so it's good, and through me not knowing anyone and not having any foundation, the foundation that I have had is coming to the center, and working out every day, and getting to meet everyone. And I've been blessed with the opportunity to volunteer and help here, and do some work behind the desk, and allow myself the opportunity to build slowly. And I couldn't be more grateful for God allowing me this, and allowing these opportunities of breaking me down and building me up and breaking me down. And I know that God's work is it seems uncertain at times, but when you believe that everything is going to be good, and you do good, and you will be good. And,
Yeah. Exactly.
and I believe in that. And at this point, it's been extremely great, and now I get to have this and put my story out, and
Yeah.
I'm blessed to have this. So thank you. I
Awesome. You're welcome,
appreciate
man. No
that so
problem.
much.
No
Thank
problem.
you.
So now what you doing this? Are you still trying to go to court for your third kid?
So with my third children, they ended up I lost my rights until she's 18.
Okay. So I mean, there's no way because of what you're doing with you doing good here and stuff.
Yeah,
There's is there any way that you can probably go back to court for at least visitation, supervised visits?
yeah,
I
and
mean,
I don't know what that looks like. Honestly, I know she's in a good place.
yeah,
And I know she's in a good place. She's with her stepbrother. I know that she's good right now, and I've had a lot of think about this, and I think God, it's hard for me to think about why that happened, and why, you know, God took my kid from me, or whatever the case may be. But I believe right now at this point in my life is that God gave me space to help others individuals that are in turmoil, and God's given me the power and the insight and the wisdom to help another individual that may
yeah,
be going through the same thing, and may get a different outcome than what my outcome was.
yeah,
And so I right now at this point in my life, like it's sad to say I'm in no position to raise another child right now at this point. You know what I mean? I'm building. I'm in a position right now where, you know, I want to be in service, and being in service is the only thing that's keeping me healthy and keeping me, right, and being in service to others. And my goal moving forward is to go back to college and get a, my master's in clinical therapy and be a clinician, and do therapy for men and do motivational speaking. And and I feel like right now I have that opportunity, a space, because my third child is okay.
Yeah.
She is right, she's good. And the thing about children is they're resilient. They'll get older, they'll know the truth, they'll find out the truth, they'll reach out. So every day I journal and write a letter to my daughter, and I put it in a box, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And just so she knows down the road, when we meet up again, or whenever that time comes, that it wasn't me forgetting about her, you know what I
Yeah.
mean.
That's good.
That it was me. I thought about you every day on my journey, and someday what I'm doing now will matter to them, will matter to my oldest, will matter to my, my second child and my third child. And the strength that I'm showing, it helps everyone around me, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I'm blessed to have the power of strength, from God, and just pushing me forward to start fresh.
Nice. Nice. Yeah. I'm pretty close here to getting certified for peer coaching.
Yeah.
So I that's one reason why I do this,
Yeah.
to help others. The peer coaching to help others.
Yeah.
I help others through my aunt's ministry because we help out with food and stuff.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, it's always good to have a purpose. It helps you stay focused, helps
Yeah.
you stay sober, and realize the things that you need to do and what's how to help other people.
Yeah.
Um, so other than that, I noticed you were in the gym earlier.
Yeah.
What else do you do?
um
Do you like, I don't know, what other hobbies do you have?
For everyone out there, I do also make music. I have music that's on all major platforms. Other than that, right now, I have a good background of, doing sushi. I love cooking. I'm an extremely good cook. But right now, really, is I'm shooting for a TED Talk. I'm building a TED Talk that I'm going to have in Boulder here in May. You
Oh,
know what I mean?
are you gonna do an actual TED talk?
Yeah, yeah. So
Nice.
I'm building for that, because my voice is my power. You know what I mean? And my voice is helped me out through my whole life. And I believe that there's people out there that need a little bit of push to find the strength inside of themselves. And no better way than for me to encourage and be kind, and help others through motivational speaking, and help them find themselves. And I couldn't be more grateful if that comes into play.
Yeah.
Because if I could be that person to help someone encourage themselves to stay sober, to find their self, their passion, or just to feel okay for one more day, that to me is enough. and
Yeah.
and I'm winning at that point.
So how were you able to get connected with the TED talk?
So if you go, so when I was in one of my Zoom classes, um, one of our facilitators was like, "Yeah, they have auditions, open
Oh.
auditions for a TED Talk, and you just apply for the open audition. They put it out, a couple months, so you could build. They have a rubric that you take, and you have to fill it out, and so they have it kind of tangible on paper. So when you bring it to them, they know what you're speaking about, and what you're going to talk about, and how you're going to motivate people. And and it's all new to me. So
Yeah.
I think that me having my music background, and recording music, and then going into, this isn't the first time I've done one of these, but going into a TED Talk, and standing on stage, and speaking greatness into people's life, and motivation into people's life. Man, it would feel like a blessing. You know what I mean? And it
Yeah.
would be great. So
Uh,
this helps me, get even one step closer,
yeah.
to speaking to people on a bigger scale, on open stage. And it's gonna be great.
Yeah, I'm sure it would be.
Yeah, it's gonna be tight.
That's great. You seem pretty excited about it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Well, good luck on that.
Thank
I'll
you.
be praying for you on that. It's a good way to get out there. And so with that, okay, so you got hobbies. We mentioned that. What about grounding? What do you do to ground yourself
You
if you get feel flustered or anxiety?
with me grounding, I practice a lot of gratitude. You know what I mean, and
Yeah.
being grateful. I think practicing gratitude is extremely strong skill. When you're having a bad day, I see people out there that are, in positions of homeless, that are in wheelchairs, and I feel for them. You know what I mean? It makes me practice gratitude even more because I have all my limbs. You know what I mean? I'm not in a wheelchair. I'm sober and looking to help people in that position. Helps me stay grounded. And another thing is, working out and taking walks to just kind of quiet down the sound. I put my headphones in. I don't play any music. I just dampen the noise on the outside world and just walk and free myself of any frustration and negativity. And another good grounding thing I use is being around people that are in like mind and sound body. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's good. I love that. I'm a people person all the way.
that's good. That's
Yeah,
good
I
because I
need
mean,
that
if you're gonna be a clinician, you got to definitely be a people person.
for
You
sure.
know,
Yeah,
you got to be open minded and be able to talk and give examples. Got to like people, even though people can be frustrating sometimes.
yeah,
You still got to change that focus.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I've been a people person and I've done a lot of customer service and whatnot over.
yeah,
I don't even know. I don't even want to say. It's been years. Let's put it that
yeah,
way. So definitely. Well, I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. I'm glad you wanted to share your story today.
yeah,
It's a very interesting one.
yeah. Thank you.
Glad you have a different mindset. Keep working at it. It's definitely going to take. It does take a long time.
Yeah,
More than 2 weeks, more than 30 days, more than 90.
yeah.
And you said you've had about a year,
But it's going on a year and six
a year
months.
and 6 months, a year
Yeah,
and a half.
yeah,
Okay. So yeah, so just keep up the hard work, man.
yeah.
You
Right.
got most of it, most of the hard struggles behind you
Yeah.
already. Um, I'm sure you still feel tempted sometimes. It's always gonna come and go, right?
Yeah, with me, a lot of it is, I really thought about, what do I want to let go of who I was, and the power of letting go. That's what I'm going to be talking about at my TED Talk is, you know, temptations are always there. You know what I mean? We live in a world of temptation.
Yeah,
And I think that with temptation, the best thing to do is find a way to channel that temptation, that urge, and really surround yourself around people who can encourage you, when you're having tempting moments, or you're having a hard day, and a lot of it for me is, I don't really have much when it comes to like the urges to use, because I've lost a lot.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And me thinking about what I've lost really helps me from having that urge. But me being at ground zero, I get complacent sometimes about feeling like, am I doing the right thing? Am I in the right place? Because I'm so far away from my family and my kids, and you know what I mean. And the only thing that keeps me going is this place. So
that's good.
it's
That's
the only thing that keeps me going is this place. Coming here every day, it helps me get back to my mindset of why I'm doing what I'm doing.
okay. That's good. So I forgot to ask you earlier. That's my fault. So you said you're in phase two, right?
Yeah.
But you never went to phase one.
No, so I'm in fresh
Fa-
start right now.
oh, you're in fresh start.
I'm in fresh start right now.
Okay, so you were at phase two, and then
Yeah,
now you're in fresh
yeah, I'm
start.
in fresh start.
You didn't go to ACP.
No, I didn't go to
Okay,
ACP or TSC. I came straight from the streets, but because of my sobriety, they allowed me to go to the sober home.
okay. So just so you don't know out there, TSZ is transitional safety zone. Where you some people, depending on how long you've been sober, they start on phase one, which is more like a blackout phase. No phones or anything. You can't go. Don't have any freedom. I mean, you gotta cook, clean. It's to help to transition you into phase two, to get you prepared more to be out and doing regular stuff like you were. So then you got phase two. You have a little bit of freedom, but you still have a curfew. ACP is what was ACP? I forgot.
I'm not sure.
Um, I'm gonna have to get back to you on that one. I'll explain what that one is a little bit later here. But also, them fresh start is where you're completely starting fresh. You get a chance to look for work while doing the program, and you get to stay in that program for uh, as long as you need, as long as you're able to do all the groups, and then start until you start working full time. Then you start getting lesser time in groups, which is to help you transition into saving money to get into your own place and stuff. So with that, it's just up to how long you need. So with that being said, anything else you'd like to include?
Yeah, just everyone that's listening or watching, I want you to know that you have an opportunity to be the best you, and the best you comes with some hard decisions, but you have people out there like Hazelbrook to help you, to be there for you, for you to be part of a community that you can feel proud about and that you can have support with. So just come up here and talk to a few people, and they'll find you where you need to be, and it's a stepping stone to be the best you. And I appreciate everything that you've done for me and allowed me to speak, and it's a blessing, and I love it. Thank you
Awesome.
so much.
All right. And before we go, I just remembered ACP, Advanced Care Program. I just popped in my head. Hey, that's a good thing. So, all right. Well, thank you all. If you have any questions, comments, you already know what to do. And I'll be seeing you all again shortly. Have a good day.
Much love.